Welcome to today's briefing. I'm Aaron. I hope you are having a great week. Let's begin today's brief in the East China Sea near Daejeon Island of South Korea. Here we have a Trilateral Anti-Ballistic Missile Patrol. That's 3 different countries working together. Interesting thing about this photo is all 3 ships are either an Arleigh class or another country's variant on our Arleigh class. We have USS Benefold. They're leading the pack. We have Japanese ship Haguro and South Korean Yulgak-yi working together, looking north for ballistic missile launches coming out of North Korea. We've seen a number of ballistic missile launches this summer, 2 of which have failed catastrophically with that military recon satellite launches. And so they're ready to intercept any more that may come their way. So Defense Minister of Japan, Yasukazu Hamada, has ordered, this goes all the way back to May 29th, so this has been a standing order all summer, has ordered Japan to destroy any missiles that appear to be on a ballistic trajectory to Japanese territory. So the Japan ships already have permission to fire if they meet very specific conditions. Now, no one expects North Korea to actually attack mainland or Chain Island Japan or Japanese territory with ballistic missiles. But with the rate of failure that we're seeing coming out of these ballistic missiles this summer, it is likely that a failed missile launch could possibly hit Japanese territory, endangering Japanese lives. So the orders would be to destroy whatever missile that might be off course and make sure it lands safely in the East China Sea or Yellow Sea so that it doesn't actually hit Japanese territory. So these ships are out there just making sure that happens. North Korea, has had a recent track record of failures, and until they get a little more consistent, I wouldn't be surprised if patrols like this just stay in place, watching for more launches. We will see. Let's head on over to the United States. This is the southeastern United States, where Hurricane Idalia has made landfall this morning. There's a number of naval bases in this part of the country that are being affected this directly, so we're going to go over those real quick. This hurricane was Category 3 when it made landfall, and the area of Florida that it hit is very marshy and swampy, so there's not a lot of land above water in that area, which means any kind of surge or flooding is going to be extensive on the inside or western side of Florida there. So expect a lot of flooding in that area. Of course, a lot of rain comes with that and winds. And on the backside, on the east coast of things, I would expect even maybe a couple tornadoes because they're getting a lot of wind on that side. So affected military bases, naval bases specifically. There's a lot more of this if you want to include Air Force and Army, which we're not doing here. As the big one is the Kings Bay Naval Base in southern Georgia, right there on the border between Florida and Georgia. That's a nuclear weapons base. And so, of course, they've got everything there tied down. Ideally, you would scramble the submarines out of port if possible. Unfortunately, because of maintenance periods, the submarines were in a condition to not safely operate at sea. So they've tied down with heavy lines 4 ballistic missile submarines pierside and 2 support ships for them are going to ride out the storm. And because they're on the opposite side of the state from the landfall, they should be okay, but we'll see what happens with them. Just south of them is the Mayport station, and there they have 4 LCSs and an Arleigh Burke that are also going to ride out the storm simply because they couldn't get to sea in time and then safely operate away from shore. So they just decided to tie those down. There were 2 littoral combat ships that were in a condition to get underway, and they did. That was the Minneapolis St. Paul and the Sioux City, or Cooperstown rather. Cooperstown is at sea right now. So they're, out bobbing around in the Atlantic, making sure that they stay safe there. NAS Jax is the air station there in northern Florida, a rather large airfield, lots of aircraft. They were able to move the majority of those aircraft to Montgomery, Alabama. So just completely out of the way of the storm. The few aircraft that they couldn't move, they've got in shelters and hangars now, just kind of riding it out. And hopefully things stay safe there. Up north in South Carolina, we do have the Naval Nuclear Power School up there, and that's 2 submarines that are physically, well, one, they're retired, they're not operational submarines, and they're physically welded or moored permanently to the pier. So they're not going anywhere. They're going to be perfectly fine up there. So we hope everybody stays safe in this area. There's no reason to endanger yourself. And for all the civilians and the Floridians out there that I used to hang with, don't do anything crazy. I know how we tend to get around hurricanes. They tend to be a lot of fun, but they're also extremely dangerous. So don't do anything stupid out there. And I hope everybody is okay when all is said and done. So that's Hurricane Idalia. Enjoy it. I think the Navy did the right thing moving everybody that they could out of the way. And those that they couldn't move, they tied down securely. All right, let's head over to something a little more serious than a little hurricane in Florida, and that is the United Kingdom's current submarine state. I recently read a story from Navy Outlook. They do a great job over there, full credit to you guys, that all 6 of the Royal Navy nuclear submarines are in port at the same time for maintenance. And I was like, well, that's not unusual. It's not common by any means, but sometimes maintenance schedules overlap. And in this case, because they have so few submarines, it's possible that all 6 submarines are in port at the same time. And, makes for a good story, a good headline. But then I started reading the details and I got a little more concerned. One, to start with some good news, it's good that the waterfronts of Faslane and Davenport, where the submarines are being maintained, can support their entire nuclear submarine fleet in at the same time. But it looks like maybe that's not the case, because some submarines have been in port for maintenance for a long period of time. Before I get into that, let me first say that the United States is not the example that they should be following, because we do the same thing. If anything, we're probably worse in terms of maintenance for our submarines than the Royal Navy is, okay? So we're not wagging fingers here at anybody saying that we do it right. But what's happening in the UK is very similar to what I'm seeing here in the United States. So let's point it out. Again, 6 nuclear submarines. The first one I want to talk about is HMS Artful, has been in a maintenance period for several months. This is normal. There's nothing wrong with that happening. But alongside her is HMS Anson. Anson has been in maintenance since February of this year. This is being recorded at the end of August. So greater than 6 months now. Whenever you start getting into that period, that's usually a scheduled, depot period maintenance level, large amount of work being done on the USS Anson potentially. Again, these 2 submarines by themselves, no cause for alarm. These maintenance periods sometimes are very long and are required. HMS Ambush, though, the 3rd submarine that's in this long period of maintenance, has been in maintenance for over a year. So right now, half their submarine fleet, if it's scheduled, is in maintenance all at the same time, leaving just 3 submarines to meet the responsibilities of NATO and whatever missions they may have to do, which is what the other submarines have been doing. And now they need maintenance as well, because they've been at sea for months and months at a time. One submarine has been deployed for over 400 days and has finally come back to port exhausted, equipment-wise, for some maintenance. So now all 6 are in maintenance. The one that's been deployed for over 400 days is going to be in maintenance probably for an extended period of time. I can't imagine what that submarine's gear must look like. I'm sure she needs a lot of love and care. So my concern is the waterfront perhaps does not have the facilities or the manpower or the money that they need to maintain the 6 submarines that they have in their fleet. And the reason why this is important is we're relying on the UK for building the submarines for Australia. So right now, if we look at the schedule, this goes from left to right. We're right here at the red line, and we're at the lowest number of nuclear submarines the Royal Navy is going to have going forward for the next few decades. We're at 6 submarines. It's going to stay at that, or it's going to increase. It's never going to go below 6, at least for the next 10 years for sure, if according to the schedule. And we can't maintain, or at least one of the 6 submarines at sea consistently, it would appear. So that's a real problem that needs to be addressed. So, and they have addressed it. So the UK has proposed and is in the process of, that's what this slide is part of, something called Project Resolution, where they're going to increase funding for dry dock and maintenance facilities, specifically for submarines, but also the Royal Navy in general, right now. And that's in progress. Those dry docks are being built now, hopefully producing or giving more maintenance time to each one of these hulls. The SSNR production begins in 2033. Those are the submarines that are going to be sold to Australia and replace the current Astute-class submarines. And those deliveries will begin in 2038. And if they don't get their maintenance upgraded, these dry docks built, these facilities improved, we will probably see that 2033 date be pushed back, which is going to push back all the other dates after it as well. My point is, we may not be delivering submarines to Australia on time, even though there is a decade of lead time already. We may need more than that before we begin building the first SSNR for Australia and the Royal Navy. One thing that complicates this assembly process is before steel is cut on the SSNR, we've already begun the pre-production process for the Dreadnought ballistic missile submarine. So they're going to attempt to build two different classes of submarine at the same time, which I believe they can do because the Royal Navy has done that before, or UK has done that before. But they're going to also try and maintain the Astute classes that they're struggling to maintain right now and build and maintain two different classes of submarine. That's two different supply chains all at the same time. Now, if Project Resolution is successful, this should not be a problem. My concern is we haven't seen success recently, so unless they turn things around, all these dates are just going to get pushed to the right, resulting in a lack of submarines going to Australia. Now, there is a stopgap measure where the United States is going to sell 3 Virginia-class submarines minimum to Australia. We've already been authorized to sell up to 5 if Australia wants 5 Virginia-class submarines. They may exercise that option because of the delay in the SSNR program. Now, these delays, these programs are still over 10 years away, so it'll be a long time before we know what happens, but unless the maintenance gets addressed first now for the Royal Navy, it's going to be a real problem for Australia in the future. Hopefully this gets resolved. And I would be remiss if I did not point out who's doing it right now. There is one Western country, one Western military industry that is providing the example of how to get things done, and that's France and Naval Group. This government-military industry relationship is efficient and it's productive. It's working. And so I want to give them a little bit of credit here. So as we, the United States Navy and the Royal Navy, we struggle to keep our submarines at sea. And I would like to point out that the United States, we still have one Flight 3 688 that's been in maintenance availability since 2018, folks. That's some 5 years now. That's longer than some enlistments in the Navy. The submarine's been in maintenance availability because it keeps getting pushed back to push Virginia class, a newer class that's in maintenance availability, to the front of the line. Well, this has been going on so long, this poor boat hasn't seen water in a long time, or had been at sea for a long time. So we have some serious issues here at home, just like that. But the Naval Group, they build French submarines, and then they also maintain their submarine fleet. Naval Group keeps them at sea, and they deploy around the world. We see French submarines in the Pacific now operating with our Westpac groups whenever we do war games over there. And Naval Group, while building, maintaining, and operating the French fleet, is also building exports submarines for other nations. So they're their own quad. They're doing all 4 things properly. And France might be the only Western nation right now that can do all 4 of those things. I would say Naval Group is the example, the bar that both the United States system should mimic and learn from, as well as the UK. All right, let me know what you think. Is Naval Group doing it right? Does France have the solution for military industry relationships between public funds and government and providing for defense for the nation? They're checking all the boxes in terms of maintaining and building a fleet, as well as making a little bit of profit through exports. And I don't see any other country in the West doing that right now. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. Look forward to seeing your comments. Take care. Oh, Gene, I've got something special for you. Have you seen the